Good morning, biology students. We are completing a case study trying to understand what role humans have had in the evolution of peas over time. And this is part of a larger unit of study where we're essentially trying to understand how and why organisms change over time. Sometimes nature exerts a pressure that the organism responds to. Sometimes humans exert that pressure. And so this is a case where humans exert the pressure. And we're trying to understand kind of how that happened. So in this module, you should have read this first part and the instructions. You'll be looking through some PowerPoint slides here. These are posted on Shobi. And then once you are done, you will be answering these homework questions. Go ahead and cross out number 3 right there, just because we're not going to focus in on that one during this part of our learning. As you're looking through the slides 9 through 12 provide an introduction to wrinkled and sweet traits of peas. I won't spend much time on that because I think you can read that on your own. I'll start right here with slide 13. It won't be slides 13 through 25, though I've edited this PowerPoint, so it'll be maybe 4 or 5 slides that you're looking at, so just be aware of that. But after you've viewed these slides, then you can go ahead and answer these homework questions on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, so to the PowerPoint. Really, to understand why peas have the different shapes that they do, we have to do a quick review of photosynthesis. We know that sunlight hits the leaf of a pea plant, and inside the leaf are those cells, and these little structures inside the cells, the chloroplast, that's where the magic happens, where photosynthesis happens. And photosynthesis produces the food for that plant. And that food is probably sugar. Sometimes that plant will produce starch as well. Here's the overall process for photosynthesis. This should look familiar. Carbon dioxide taken in from the air combines with water taken in through the roots or maybe through the leaf, again from the air, combines with light, and it makes this molecule a sugar molecule, and it also produces oxygen, which is released back into the environment. So plants will produce sugar. It's a quick, easy source of food, but sometimes plants need a source of food that can be stored for a longer amount of time. So that when the weather starts to cool off or maybe there's not as much sunlight, then they still have a source of food they can break down. And so even though overall in photosynthesis we usually produce sugar, sometimes we also produce starch. So some breeds of peas are starchier and some are more sugary than others. So inside the pea cell, when light hits those little chloroplasts that are inside the plant cell, it starts going through photosynthesis, and part of photosynthesis is something called the Calvin cycle, and it produces a molecule right here. Okay? Big molecule is called glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. We're going to call it G3P. And the G3P molecule can be used to build one of 3 main products that a plant might need to store some energy: sucrose, or sugar, amylose, which is a starch, and amylopectin, and that's another starch. It's just bigger. Starches tend to be really big molecules. So if we kind of look at this step by step inside the pea cell, G3P is made into sugars, including glucose and fructose, which then combine to form sucrose. So a plant might take this G3P, make these 2 little sugar molecules, glucose and fructose, combine them into a bigger molecule, sucrose, and that's a picture of sucrose over there. It's made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, so all the different little colored spheres you see there are different atoms of carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen. So it's not too big of a molecule, easy for a plant to break down and get the energy it needs. Okay, pea plants that have a lot of sucrose or sugar, when you dry them out, they tend to get wrinkly. And so that's what that pea would look like after it's been dried out. Alternatively, we can take the G3P molecule and it can be exposed to 2 enzymes, synthase and a starch branching enzyme. And all that enzymes do is they cause a reaction to happen in a different way, and they cause it to happen quickly. So these enzymes come in and they attach to this G3P molecule, and then it builds a much bigger molecule, a starch. And look at the starch molecule over here. Carbons, hydrogens, oxygens are all there, but it's a much bigger molecule than sucrose is. And so then peas that have a lot of starch in them, when you dry them out, tend to be round. So that's kind of the important thing to remember here. Both of these peas, whether they have sucrose or starch in them, when you take them right off the pea plant, they're both very round. But after you dry them, the one with sugar gets more wrinkled, the one with starch stays rounder. So on the next slide, we're revisiting this question that you saw earlier. It says, what do seed shape and taste have in common? So it says wrinkled peas are wrinkled because they initially have a higher water content. So those peas that have a lot of sugar in them also absorb a lot of water. And when they dry, though, the wrinkled peas lose their shape. They lose a lot more water, and so they get all wrinkly. Those round peas do not lose as much water. So here's your question. Why would wrinkled peas have a higher water content than round or starchy peas? What made them absorb more water? And I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with osmosis. So think back to what we learned about osmosis, and that will help you answer this question. And then you can go, once you think you have a good idea, you can go and answer your homework questions here. Good luck.